Welcome to What's New, your channel for everyday solutions.
Be sure to subscribe, share and like our videos. This is What's New.
After decades of war, Colombian farmers face a new test. Peace. By Nicholas Casey. Los Rios, Colombia. Every 3 months or so, Javier Tupaz, a father of 6, heads downhill from his clapboard home to work in his cocaine laboratory. Under a black tent in the jungle, he shovels coca leaves into a giant vat with gasoline, then adds cement powder, the first steps in his cocaine recipe. Like everyone in his village, Mr. Tupaz depends on coca for cash and has survived decades of war here in Colombia. He churned out his product during the seemingly endless conflict between the rebels and the government, which tried many times to destroy his coca plants. He simply replanted. But there is one thing that Mr. Tupaz says his crops may not survive: peace. The peace deal signed late last year between the government and the main rebel group, the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, known as the FARC, was never just about ending the America's longest-running conflict. The Colombian government also sees peace as its biggest chance in decades to uproot the rebel-controlled drug trade and replace it with crops that are legal, though admittedly less lucrative. "We celebrated the deal. After all, the conflict was over," Mr. Tupaz said next to one of his large drug vats. But on the other hand, the FARC had control here. You could grow coca, have a lab, and you were protected. Peace means that soldiers no longer have to shoot their way into rebel-held territory to pull up coca plants or dismantle drug labs. Now the FARC, which formally disarmed last month, is joining forces with the government to wean farmers off coca, one of the first collaborations ever between the old enemies. Outside Mr. Tupaz's village, Los Rios, the rebels now appear in civilian clothes alongside government officials, selling farmers on crops like black pepper and heart of palm. "Without the war with the FARC we have a great opportunity ahead," said Vice President Oscar Naranjo, a retired general who spent much of his career fighting the rebels. "There is a clear urgency to the effort." Even as the government and the FARC were negotiating peace, coca cultivation in Colombia soared last year, with a record amount of land being used to grow the crop, according to the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy. Now, as part of its reconstruction plan for Colombia's war-ravaged countryside, the government is promising money to the first 50,000 coca-growing families that take the offer, a monthly payment of about $325 for the first year that farmers give up coca, followed by subsidies to plant new crops and education on how to grow them. But with the carrot comes sticks, General Naranjo warned. Not everyone will want to substitute their crops, particularly those with deep ties to the drug industry, he said. And for them, there will be forced, manual eradication. From the tiny plot near his village, Mr. Tupaz says he has seen this before. He recalls the early 2000s, when the government gave every family here 2 cows to ease them off coca production, which led to plummeting prices for cattle when people sold them. Or, when officials came with a plan to grow vanilla, which failed because no one knew how to grow vanilla in Los Rios. There was even the time in 2010, after so many fumigations of his coca plants, that Mr. Tupaz simply gave up on drug cultivation and trekked down a muddy path to the bank in town, taking out a loan to plant 2 acres of cacao, which is used to make chocolate. "They were just this size when they were sprayed, too," he said, raising his hand a few feet off the ground as he recounted how military planes dropped chemicals that ended up killing his legal crops. The fumigations were eventually halted in 2015 because the herbicide used, glyphosate, was linked to cancer by the World Health Organization. When the spraying stopped, American officials have argued, coca cultivation increased. Colombian officials dispute that conclusion, citing other factors, like the falling price of gold in recent years, that made coca farming more attractive. For many rural Colombians, the issue is one of simple math. The coca plant used to make cocaine is far more profitable than anything else that could be grown here. Los Rios, with 32 families, sits more than an hour's hike through mud and rivers. cut off from hospitals, markets and virtually every industry except drugs. Its residents say peacetime leaves them with a choice between the criminality of coca and the even deeper poverty they would face by planting something else. "We have accepted it, we will earn less with other crops," said Edward Coaran, 23, a coca grower who returned to Los Rios, despite having attained a university degree, because he could not find work. But what choice is there? Already, coca prices have dropped because so much coca was planted and fewer rebels are involved in the drug trade, leaving many growers without a buyer. Meanwhile, the government has taken marijuana, long trafficked by rebels, and legalized it for medical production, largely by corporations. Few licenses have been granted so far, and many small farmers complain that they have been shut out. That has left difficult choices in places like Corinto, a town 300 miles north of Los Rios, at the foot of mountains threaded with marijuana bushes and the light bulbs they grow under. At a meeting of dozens of farmers, a woman opened with the Lord's Prayer and urged God to help us all substitute illegal crops with legal ones. Edward Garcia, the mayor, outlined a government package for townspeople on a whiteboard. "They won't wait forever for us to sign up," he said, warning that the military was already patrolling the edges of the town. A few farmers have made a successful switch. Near the border with Ecuador, Pablo Coaran hacked down a tiny palm tree with a machete, then sliced open the trunk to reveal its juicy center, heart of palm, which he started cultivating a decade ago.
Welcome to What's New, your channel for everyday solutions.
Be sure to subscribe, share and like our videos. This is What's New.